Well, hello everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to Center Court, our admissions festival, and we are going to talk about career outcomes and careers in the field of business analytics. My previous session dealt with admissions and the programs themselves, and now we're going to do a deep dive into what can you expect if you get this degree. What kind of jobs might you have? What kind of actual things you'll do on the job, what kinds of students have made pivots in their careers thanks to these degrees in business analytics. And to talk about all this and more, we have two terrific people from Baruch College and from UMass Amherst. At UMass, it's the Eisenberg School of Management. At Baruch, it's the Zicklin School of Business. We have Justin from Baruch. He is the Associate Director of Employer Relations. And from Eisenberg, we have Rachel Snyder, the Assistant Director of Career Development. Welcome.
Thank you, John. Happy to
Thanks
be
so
here
much,
today.
John.
So one of the places that I kind of ended our previous discussion with some of your colleagues was the difference between pursuing a specialized degree like a master's in business analytics versus an MBA. And I wondered from both of you, why do you think non-MBA master's degrees are proven to be such a popular choice these days? I mean, there's no question that one of the biggest growth areas in graduate management education is these kinds of degrees, business analytics and global supply chain management, product management, you name it. Why is that so? Justin?
Yeah, what we're finding with our students, again, we're not saying like a MS versus MBA war or battle, anything like that, but the MBA experience ultimately becomes just, one of the degrees a candidate wants to have that holistic business approach. So understanding the MBA as a cogwheel of a business and getting exposure to many of those cogwheels versus that specialization in, say, business analytics to become much more of a subject matter expert. And that really fits for a different candidate profile, especially if it could be a career changer wanting to become a subject matter expert in business analytics, or somebody who's got an established career and wants to be that data storyteller and connect the dots with data-driven decision making. That's what we're seeing certainly at Baruch. I think it's probably similar at other campuses as well.
Yeah, and I'm also thinking, most full-time MBA programs do require a certain number of years of work experience. In specialty master's programs, many of them are what we would call pre-experience programs, where you can go directly from your undergraduate institution into these programs. So that's a big difference. And another big difference, of course, is that these programs are not as long as a 2-year residential MBA and considerably less expensive as a result. Rachel, what's your take on this?
I agree with you, John, but also with a lot of Justin's sentiments. I think in addition to what he said, certainly the work experience has been incredibly, it's been difficult, I think, for a number of candidates to upskill quickly and sort of keep pace with a very dynamic, technically charged environment. So, as business has changed, the degrees have changed. I think there's certainly still space and a need for that broader, more comprehensive business education, but the flexibility, the adaptability, and meeting the students where they're at now, especially in 2022, the students really need solutions to be able to upskill quickly and return to the market. And you mentioned, one of our most popular candidate profiles that we see in our program are students coming in with pretty diverse undergraduate degrees. So not necessarily in business, but really having studied the market and now understanding that specialized training is really going to give them an edge in what is a very competitive job market. So I think just, as business evolves, our degrees have evolved right alongside with them, and having the flexibility and adaptability to be able to apply specialization is tremendously helpful for students.
Rachel, tell us a little bit about the graduates of your program and what kind of careers they actually pursue in this field of business analytics.
Absolutely. So I would say the majority of our students pursue careers in data and business analytics. We have a number of students who go on to become business intelligence analysts or specialized analysts, pricing analysts, compensation analysts, things like that. But we also see a number of students really leaning into some of the more general business acumen that the program provides and going into consulting, assurance and advisory services, compliance, quality control, and sometimes even product, and program management, I would say for the most part.
Justin, can you add to that? I'm assuming that your students are somewhat similar in terms of the careers that they pursue.
Absolutely. I mean, so certainly with those, one area, so that's business analytics, data analytics, even data warehousing, and also even application within financial services organizations as financial analysts. Many of our students have found that the degree is really helpful for that. And in addition to the roles that Rachel mentioned, traditionally Baruch has been an accounting school as well. And so many of our undergraduate accounting students end up doing their degree in business analytics. And we have a concentration, as an example, within accounting analytics. And that's a growth within some of the professional services firms that that come to recruit at Baruch as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, on some level, I would think that a lot of people think, okay, business analytics means I can do analytics at a company. But it's really, you know, one job is not really the same as another job. And there are all kinds of levels of this and all kinds of different industries that require it that shape the actual content of the job. And so I'm wondering if you might give us a little insight on that. Like if you went to McKinsey with your degree in business analytics, what would you do versus going to a place like Ford Motor? Justin?
Yeah, so actually, just as an example from our class of 2021 specifically, we're working still on our data for the class of 2022, but one of our graduates of the MS Business Analytics program is at Accenture, and their role is as data engineer. So in that role, that individual is supporting the consultants in how they're working with data to drive decision making, consultation to their clients. So that's just one example from a consulting firm perspective.
And then if they went to a more traditional manufacturing or consumer product company, what would they be doing, for example?
There's no difference, right? So that's really what that's ultimately what the academics behind business analytics is. It's in whatever role you are. You could be a marketing analyst, you could be a data engineer at Accenture, you could be working as an example as a data science in IBM, whatever it might be. Ultimately, your responsibility is to take data, not be scared of it, and then be able to help teams glean what information is important for them to make business decisions and to serve their customers. That's really what it is, right? And so that's and we're not seeing that there's a lot of difference whether it's in-house at a consumer packaged good firm or at a consulting firm, whatever it might be. They're very similar.
So in a way, it's about interpretation, right? Because data collection probably should be assumed at many of these companies. So it's a question of how do you extract value from the data that you have?
Yeah, and we're finding too, which is a big part of our curriculum too, is not only that technical part of being able to extract data, but also being able to take it and interpret it in a way that you can talk to individuals who aren't that great with data, or maybe don't have any time to look at that data. They need you to become that storyteller to give them the insights that are most important for them to be able to do their jobs better too. So that's the part of it that's really important, right? There's the technical aspect, but also, okay, but what does it all mean in the context of where you're working?
Right. And Rachel, what kind of employment rates are you seeing for these graduates?
So we're actually in the process of revamping our survey and assessment to account for a higher response rate. But we've actually recently implemented a tool this semester that we're seeing very good success with. It's called, well, we've branded it I Succeed, but it's with the Suitable app. And what that does is give the students a lot more control to be able to track their own career development initiatives. So for example, we have all of our career workshops and presentations preloaded on the app with assigned QR codes. So every time a student is taking on a career development initiative, attends a workshop, perhaps records a mock interview, they have the ability to scan that QR code. And we found that that transparency has helped encourage them to sort of self move along the process, but also enabled us to stay more closely in touch with student needs, with topic areas that we're finding they're gravitating toward more or less, and really helps us kind of inform our program offerings better. But absolutely looking forward to a process that truly gets us the insights to best optimize.
Great. And Justin, I know you're still gathering the data for your class of 2022. What the employment rate, what does it look like for 21?
Yeah, so that's actually live on our website. And I am happy to, if it's possible, John, if it's not possible, that's no problem. I can send it into chat with the link to where that is. Great. So you'll find our employment. It's not outcomes. It's actually just it's an employment report of employment status at graduation. Actually, the year of 2021 was the first graduating year for our MS Business Analytics program because it was a new program that launched in 2017, or I'm sorry, 2019. And so just reporting on the students that do not require sponsorship at work visa sponsorship, 95% of that graduating class was employed at graduation. And it was a somewhat small class. And it's obviously a different percentage for those that require sponsorship. But if you click on that link, you'll find an MBA and MS employment report for the academic year 21, and you'll see not only for business analytics what those percentages are, but also some of the companies where those individuals are working.
Yeah, terrific. Rachel, tell me a little bit about how you support and prepare students for their eventual careers.
Sure. Well, one of the ways that we do that is with a designated career coach, and I'm happy to say that is me. So all students actually participate in an MSBA kind of interdisciplinary orientation to kick off their master's program with us. And one of the things that's great about that programming is that it builds in industry insights and not only focuses on the career development programming, but brings in our stellar faculty as well. We find that certainly increases the students' comfort knowing what it is that they're about to take on, but really kind of starts the conversation from day one about how important it is to, your academic and career development going hand in hand over the course of what is a very quick one-year master's program for those that decide to take it that accelerated. I also offer a series of professional development workshops, both in person and virtually every semester in the topics of resume and cover letter development, LinkedIn and networking, job and internship search strategies, behavioral case and technical interviewing, salary research, negotiation, offer evaluation, and that list goes on. We have a virtual career development system, a virtual career platform called iConnect that has hundreds of MSBA specific downloadable career videos. That's actually where I record all of their presentations for them to be able to watch them asynchronously. Downloadable student guides, resources, blog posts, and it actually is a portal to Handshake, which we use for our events and on-campus recruiting, jobs and internships, and provides guidance in other areas too, like with LinkedIn Learning or Vault career guides. Certainly encourage our students to utilize those resources for career and professional developments. Students have the opportunity to take a 1-credit career and professional development course, should they like to work that into their curriculum, and also have access, our international students have access to a system called InterStride, which are jobs and internships that have been curated that accept OPT, CPT, and STEM OPT in order to provide them with a little bit more connectivity to some types of roles for sponsorship. I would say above and beyond that, we have a number of on-campus and virtual now events in recruiter presentations, networking events, and other types of networking initiatives to bring students together, not only with one another, but to, again, provide that better connectivity with recruiters and potential employers.
So it sounds on some level that you're not merely providing support and prepping students to find their first job. You're actually giving them the skills to search throughout their entire career, how to make the next leap.
That's absolutely what it is. We're very intentional about this being a process that happens over time. It isn't just that you're going to take on 1 or 2 workshops and be completely, ready to adapt and pivot within any given market. It's incredibly important to us that we prepare our students not only for their time in the program, but beyond. And what we find is that they come back to us as alums and are more than willing to sort of pass down that industry knowledge, that legacy knowledge, if you will, because they too took advantage of it from the beginning and were sort of, involved and felt like part of the process, kind of felt like the family, part of the family from the beginning, if that makes sense.
And Justin, I'm assuming that you have a careers curriculum as well for development of careers and thinking long-term about how you basically network yourself into better jobs, interview effectively, and all the other great things that come about when you attend a great school.
Absolutely. I'm just going to, and very similar to what Rachel described, students will definitely find that at Baruch with the career coaching, the programming, and all of that. I just want to add a couple of things that, I for anyone thinking about business and an MS in a business analytics program, wherever you're going, whether it's at Baruch, UMass Amherst, wherever it might be, and if you're doing a career change, and don't rush through it because it's part of that career process. And we work with a lot of students and we find that they're like, I just want to do it quick and then it's done. And you need to give yourself some breathing room and time to not only take on the content and academics of what you're going to experience, but also to consider then doing internships and giving yourself room and space to do internships, because that'll be a really important part of you being able to make a pivot and make a change. And one of the things that our employers and recruiters consistently tell us, especially when it comes to business analytics, is really working and giving yourself the time to work on communications and the way in which you communicate really important data and information and insights. And so we work with students as well on our campus, and we have various resources and departments that help students with how they're communicating the points they want to come across and how they're really making those in very specific and effective ways. And that's part of also an individual's career success. That becomes part of what Rachel described and what we offer at our career center too, right? Resume review, interview prep, all that other stuff, but that's a really integral part as well of the thought process that will be the difference between a successful candidate and one who might be needing to do more work.
And since you mentioned internship opportunities, where does that occur in the program and how does it occur?
It's really up to the student and where they are. So for our students that are looking to do an internship, it can happen the first day they walk onto campus. So whether they're for many students who are on F1 visas, international students, many of them in fact would be able to get CPT even on their first semester, depending on their background. So they would need to check with our ISC, but we have students who from day one, they end up finding an internship. And oftentimes for our students, a few weeks before the kickoff of their program, they'll start to be able to get access to our career center. So before they've even walked onto campus, they can start to set up a time to meet with a career coach. For many of them, they'll start already applying and getting themselves ready. And so that's how they'll land that internship. But usually it could be that second semester or the summer, because our cohorts always start in the fall for the MSBA. And that traditionally could be the summer too. But it really depends on the initiative, the work of that individual student when they want to do that.
Same story at UMass, Rachel?
Yeah, so I would say really similar. A few things that I was sort of thinking about as Justin was talking, I'm in agreement. And I would say that, one of the things, going back to the flexibility and adaptability of this program that is great, is that we can meet students where they are. So if they truly want to take an accelerated program and do this, in 3 semesters or in a year, they can absolutely do that. However, if they'd like to extend their time in the program, taking their time, as Justin talked about, being so important to fully explore what's out there before attempting to jump in the pool, they can through an internship. So for example, if our international students wanted to embark on CPT over the summer, just to be able to get that on the ground experience, they could, and then resume their full classes in the fall. That also is a great way for career changers to get a little bit more exposure and experience on the resume. So it's always fascinating. We have a lot of different candidate profiles that come through the door, but occasionally we see folks who don't want to do anything whatsoever that has to do with their undergraduate degree, just really looking to distance themselves from that altogether. And in some cases, an internship can be a really integral part of giving them the exposure they need to most successfully market and earn that outcome. But having the flexibility to be able to do that is great. Students can elect to take them for credit, or just simply do some prospecting and create, our domestic students often create opportunities for themselves when they realize that their specific skill sets they need to be marketing in order to be best prepared for that space.
I want to echo what Rachel said too. That's actually one thing that is like a maxim at our career center is meeting you where you are, because not everybody isn't the same profile, and so that's a really important thing too when you're considering any program in an MSBA. Wanted to also just jump in. One thing that we also do with our students, and especially in the business analytics, is we encourage and help them and communicate the most popular case competitions that our students in the program end up doing each year. And so we operationalize that so that we can give those students the opportunity also to get into analytics case competitions right from day one, so that they can start to beef up their resume with relevant experience within their first month and a half.
And I was going to say, besides the fact that internships sometimes lead to full-time job offers, more importantly, they lead to experience that you can talk about in a job interview.
That's right.
Plus a recruiter. And this is true of experiential learning projects at school as well. And I wonder to what extent you use experiential learning in your program that can be leveraged in the job interview to help a student gain, the sort of extra foothold on a position. Justin, you want to address that?
Yeah, I think it kind of echoes some of the things that we've been talking about. And the most important thing is, no matter if it's experiential or if it's an internship and real work experience, it's being able to understand what you did and the impact that what you did made to the goals of either the task or more importantly, the organization. So one example is the Adobe Analytics Challenge happens every fall, and Adobe has created this beautiful analytics challenge. And ultimately it is, okay, well, if you were part of this challenge, we want to help you communicate after being in this challenge. What were the tasks that you did? That's great. You use Java, you use Python, whatever it might be. You crunched a data set. But what was the impact of that on exactly the goals of the challenge? And similarly also with an internship. And so recruiters want to hear that piece. So it's great that we're hearing the technical part, but they really want to understand, okay, but what was that impact that you made by doing that action and task? So that's the important part.
And I imagine that experiential learning is an important part of your program at UMass. And again, a project with the company that has a result, it's just a good story to tell in a job interview.
Absolutely. The ability for our students to sell those transferable skills often will take the place of an internship. The curriculum is really purposely designed around project experience. And that's frequently one of the things that we hear from recruiters about what makes the program attractive to them. The opportunity for our students, again, from the first class that they take, business intelligence and analytics, they are learning the software and applying it. And so I think that's one of the other things too that our students enjoy seeing, is that once they get in the door, they gain exposure to Python and all the other technical software, but the broad applicability of it all will enable them to really articulate some meaningful impact on their resumes. And one of the reasons why we really encourage them to dig in deep to industry research and insights from the beginning, because it's a wonderful problem to have, that you'll have these incredibly marketable skill sets. But even more important, to apply them where you're passionate. We know statistics say that you're going to be promoted faster, retained longer, happier at your job if you can purposely steer it in an area that you're passionate about. And I think company and industry selection, when companies when students are targeting job opportunities, is incredibly important, because that's when the data kind of comes to life.
Rachel, what would you say employers most appreciate about your graduates?
I would say, well, certainly their technical proficiency. I'm often jealous of their technical aptitude when I'm helping them sell it within their credentials. I'm thinking, I'm not quite sure I understand that, but it sounds great. And I'd love to be able to do it. But I would say most frequently we hear from our recruiters that they like the hustle that our students bring to the table, just relentless problem solvers. They are incredibly self-motivated, and for many of them, international, first generation, or otherwise really looking to optimize their careers and push them past the limit. And I think our recruiters appreciate that brand.
Justin, what would you say?
John, you might have been in mute, but I think you might have passed it over to me.
Oh, there we go.
Indeed, I did.
You know, similarly as well, you know, with our with the recruiters that do hire, having that technical knowledge and that hard skill knowledge is really impressive for them. And similarly, you know, Baruch, we're right at 23rd and Lexington Avenue, right in the heart of New York City, and our population and our student population really reflects the grittiness and the diversity of what New York City is when you think about New York City. And so similarly of, you know, fearless and jump into a challenge, wanting to take work on, and ultimately wanting to contribute, wanting to be a contributing player on a team. And when that team can be a class team, that team can be, you know, at a company. And that's what our recruiters really, what they recognize at our students.
What would you say most surprised students in the program, either about the content, the culture, or maybe even the job outcomes? Justin?
I think one of the things that surprises students culture-wise, I think I would jump in and take that one, is being in the city. So, you know, the city is big, it's noisy, and there's a lot going on. And so while there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of competition, and there's a lot of prioritization that has to happen. And so for some students, it's thriving in that and loving that and jumping into it. And then for some, it's getting up to speed and being able to be part of that culture. We don't have a traditional campus. Our campus does not go horizontally, it goes vertically. And so that means stairs, elevators, you're running, you know, here and there. And then you get out onto Lexington Avenue and you've got cabs and buses. And so that's, you know, that's culturally, I think for many students, one of the experiences that they have at Baruch.
Yeah, that's well put, having lived in New York City myself and worked there for most of my life. What about at UMass? What do you think students are most surprised about the program, the culture, or the outcomes?
I think from my perspective and the role that I have at Eisenberg, students are most surprised by their incredible capabilities. I find that when I begin to work with students, they have incredible capability, but they might be lacking in confidence. It can be really overwhelming to not have experience or exposure to a highly technical space. But once they actually start, they surprise themselves. And you know, part of the joy of doing the work that I do is seeing that evolve over the course of the program. So in the first couple of weeks, it's, wow, there's a lot. This is good. I'm keeping pace. Halfway through, it's okay. I've got a couple of projects under my belt. I'm starting to get warmed up a little bit here. And then the last semester just flies for them. And inevitably they come back like, I didn't think I could do it. I wasn't even sure in real time I was doing it, but I did it. And here I am. And they start to see themselves as in a new light, which is incredibly satisfying, as you can imagine.
Yeah, so they're developing self-confidence and the skills that they gain and the work that they're doing, which is the beauty of a great graduate program by
Absolutely.
far. Self-confidence is incredibly important to success in life and in business, and not cockiness.
Agree. Very well.
Let me ask you this. If your students were to gather at an alumni reunion 5 years after they graduate, what would they most talk about and remember about the program?
I think for Baruch, I think we find this certainly in for our business analytics program, it's a little nascent, but for other programs for sure is how much the community of learning together and helping together is ingrained at Baruch. I think when people think of New York City, they do think of competitiveness, but this town is about also helping people in many ways. That's really what New York City is about, and that's reflective in our students. So that idea of, oh, remember when we had this class and you helped me here, or that we created a study group to all get this done together, or you connected me to somebody that you knew who worked at this company. Thank you so much. And building that community and reflecting on how much that helped them from a careers perspective, a skills perspective, a confidence perspective, and just a life perspective as well.
Yeah. Rachel?
I agree. That connectivity is incredibly important.
Yeah.
And I would say, looking back, as they discover that the networks that they start to build here only grow, and then begin to sort of realize, Justin and I were chatting before the call kicked off, but really then begin to realize that this experience is going to lead to this one and this one. And in stopping and looking at that in real time, it might not seem to make sense. But once you take that back look and look at where you've been, it's like, oh, okay, I see this path as being one that was very purposeful, and that A led me to B, led me to C. And looking around, those people are still with me. They're still my colleagues, and they're still the people that I would go to if I had a problem or if I needed help. And just ensuring that that's a culture that begins, again, like I said, on day one at orientation. We're very purposeful about messaging to students the responsibility that comes with having an Eisenberg degree after graduation. We don't have the expectation that you'll take it and run. We do expect that you'll remain a part of our community and in return and come back and talk to our students. And that is, again, another really great way to see how our students have continued to evolve after the program. It's we've launched in probably 2017. Our first graduating class was 2018. So we're going to be coming up on 5 years. And I think you've given me a good idea here. Thinking I'm going to need to convene some of our graduates for our first reunion.
Video recorded, put it out there.
Oh, I apologize, John. I can't hear you. Oh, there we go.
Video recorded and put it out there. Now, Rachel, you mentioned the word that is a word that's commonly used when people talk about MBA programs in particular,
Sure.
Networking and the network. And
Yes.
the network that you graduate in is often associated, at least in part, with the values the degree confers. Talk a little bit about your network. I mean, even though the programs exist for only 5 years, people are graduating into a broader network at UMass, right? So,
Absolutely.
So how big is that network? How helpful is it? How loyal and sticky is it?
Yeah, so we really, just as we do with our undergraduates, instill in our students the importance of effective outreach and networking, is not only as it relates to advancing your careers, but in learning and gaining exposure to what you might want to do moving forward. I think that one of the ways that we sort of ensure that happens throughout their time in the program is being sensitive to the fact that we have learners at all different life stages, all different lifestyles, learners who are tuning in from halfway across the world, or who are across the hall from me right now in the Eisenberg building, and ensuring that we have them feel connected and provide opportunities for them to access learning and quite frankly, one another. We have a nice system at UMass called Connect UMass, and it sort of works as a LinkedIn, but only for UMass. So some of our students sometimes can feel frustration when they attempt to network with other people in industries and LinkedIn and don't necessarily hear back right away. And I have to remind them that, well, when you're not job seeking, sometimes you don't have those notifications on like job seekers do. And it might be a little while until folks get back to you. But with something like Connect UMass, everyone that's there is either an active UMass student or an alum and has opted in very purposefully for that reason. So we just try to ensure that our students understand the importance of that and the fact that once they leave UMass, they're going to use online job boards less and less and less, and depend on their colleagues for awareness of the hidden job network and how absolutely critical that will be to advance their careers moving forward.
And Justin, your thoughts about the Baruch network?
Yeah, so the Baruch network is really strong, especially within New York City with over 110,000 alums within the 5 boroughs. And we really leverage on that. And the networking piece is really important. I want to echo one thing that Rachel mentioned is, we certainly promote networking and from a style perspective, but also giving respect that everybody needs to do it in their own way and in their own style. And so while it's great to have a workshop on networking or showing a video on networking, but everybody has to be able to do it in the way that's most comfortable for them so that it can be successful for them. And so we curate various networking opportunities for our MSBA students and our graduate students in general. So we have a data analytics meetup events that are around formalized networking just for a couple of hours so that students can meet alums from the program who are in business analytics roles, talk with them, be able to share insights and bounce off ideas and make some connections through there. Our campus also has both, they have a mentorship program for an annual mentorship program, as well as mentorship, speed mentorship events throughout the year that our campus provides for those students as well, that get matched with mentors that they can meet for a substantial amount of time. And then Rachel's spot on too, which is really important as well, is not only of alums and working professionals, but giving opportunity for students to also network with other students who are interning in those programs. So 4 times a year, just as an example, we have our interning students come and do an event allowing students who may not be interning or who are interning to meet with students in the program that are interning and get a sense of what their experience is like.
Now, a lot of people who will be watching this program are not in the United States. And I wonder, for an international applicant and ultimately a student, what you can tell them about the possibility of gaining a job in the United States after graduating from your program. How hard is it? How much more difficult might it be for an international student to land a US job? How easy is it to get an H-1B visa? Give us some insight on that. Justin, you go first and then Rachel.
Sure. Yeah, we get that question a lot. And in all honesty, I would answer this. So job success and employment success isn't about a degree alone. That's not the one metric, right? Is that's going to guarantee employment. There are other metrics of your background, of an individual's background, which includes ability to communicate, ability to be able to communicate impact, networking. We talked about that too. Background and skills. Many people doing an MSBA have very different skill backgrounds. Some are coming from an English degree or something like that and are doing a pivot, where some people are coming with really highly technical knowledge. So really the quote unquote chances of employment success are the same for an international student as they are for a domestic student in many ways. A domestic student who has also has different backgrounds as well doesn't guarantee that they're going to get a job. And so it's really focusing for any student, whether they're a domestic student or an international student, focus on the levers you can change to increase the probability of you being a successful hire. And those are the things that I talked about. Working on your communication and how you've made impact, understanding how your skills that may not be direct are transferable, and making it really easy for a recruiter or company to say, oh, that makes sense. Yes, let's move you on to the next phase, and getting to understand that building on your networks and not and networking the way you are, all of those pieces of the pie, that's going to increase an individual student's probability of getting hired, whether they're an international student or a domestic student.
Rachel, your take on that question?
Yes. So thankfully, our program is STEM OPT approved. And one of the things that we work on with international students is a difference in strategy, really. Everybody receives the same foundational career development and planning. But one of the things that's nice about serving as a career coach is that I then have the opportunity to sit down one-on-one with our students and help them customize their strategy, which will be different, vastly different, even from position to industry to company, regardless of their visa status. But one of the other things that we've found that's been empowering for our international students, but also helpful to our employer partners, is really emphasizing and communicating what that STEM OPT designation gives them the ability to do, which is work in the United States for up to 3 years before seeking sponsorship. And that's a really important thing to sort of insert into the process. And we encourage our students to share that while networking, to embed it within their LinkedIn profiles, because so many times, understandably, the thought goes right to H-1B. And okay, from the employer's perspective, is there going to be a lottery? We sort of like to eliminate that concern right off the bat, because again, with the ability to work for up to 3 years, it provides a lot more flexibility on the employer's part if they don't have to worry about immediately submitting to that lottery. A lot can change in those 3 years, and does, as we've sort of seen here over the past few. And I would say certainly the ability to perform CPT is helpful for them as well. So our international students who may not have had an opportunity to gain US work experience, now having the opportunity to do that, regardless if it leads to a long-term employment offer or not, is absolutely critical to their success.
Yeah, and not only do they get 3 years, but they get 3 shots at that lottery if they want it, right?
I'm sorry, I apologize, John. I missed the first half of what you said. I think it cut out a little bit.
Not only do they get the 3 years under OPT, optional and practical training, if it's STEM designated, but they also get 3 shots at the H-1B lottery.
That's right. It can provide multiple opportunities and just a lot more flexibility for the potential employer to visualize how this mutually beneficial relationship could work.
Okay, so tell prospects how they may be able to get in touch with you, ask more questions, get more information about the program and its outcomes.
Yep. So at Baruch, the program information is actually, you can find it through the link. So the outcomes link is in the chat, and then from that link there is a link to our admissions page, and so getting to the admissions team there and sending any questions that you might have as well. The business analytics degree is also described through links in there as well. So talking about what you'll learn through the MSBA, the STEM designation as well at Baruch, and CPT information too. So that's the way to go.
Rachel?
Thank you. And I've just actually put our website into the chat. That will bring them to the Eisenberg School of Management website. That's eisenberg.umass.edu/programs/4+1. And from that, you can actually access what are called program lead specialists, academic advisors, and career coaches. I will frequently sit with students while they're considering whether or not this is the right program for them, and just give them a bit of a preview as to some of the career development program and initiatives they'll gain exposure to once they're an admitted student. So I'd say that is the best place to start for academic, career, and other information.
Terrific. Hey, thank you so much for participating. Really appreciate it. Really liked our session. Rachel, Justin, thanks again.
Thank you, John. And thank you, Justin. It's a pleasure spending time with you today.
Likewise to you both, John and Rachel. Thank you so much. And everybody who's logged in, thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.